Hello. I am privileged to be standing here before you today. You see, it was through many hardships and many journeys that I have made it to this place here right now. My name is Melinda Ching, and I am an ABC. What's an ABC, you ask? It's an American-born Chinese. I'm first generation, meaning that my parents immigrated to the US and I was born in this country. So why am I here today? To be honest, I'm here because of a conversation a dear friend Erica and I were having after our experience at a People of Color conference last fall. Erica was actually supposed to be here today, but unfortunately she got COVID and isn't able to join us. During this conversation, Erica and I were reflecting on this immensely powerful experience we had had. At the People of Color conference, we gathered as adult educators and surrounded ourselves with people that looked like us, people who had different skin tones and different accents and hair and eyes. And in a world where we had been immersed in Western culture, it felt refreshing. Those few days at the People of Color conference felt like we were suspended in space. We had dedicated time to stop, reflect, and think about our identities in a way that we had rarely allowed ourselves to do so. And so here I am today to talk to you all about our thoughts, our conversations, and my own experience growing up as an ABC. And in sharing, my hope is that you all will take a moment for yourselves to think about your own identities, your family's practices, and your family's culture. Allow me to start my story by telling you about my parents. My dad immigrated with his 7 siblings to Hong Kong after the Chinese Communist Party had taken over his small town in Guangzhou. My grandma was one of the few educated women where they lived, and with her husband, my grandpa, they were able to flee with just a suitcase for all 10 of them. My dad never talked about his past. For him, it was the past. And what was more important was the future. My dad's family was able to immigrate to America after being sponsored by my aunt's husband, who is an ABC, Uncle Ben. They then opened up a Chinese restaurant in Montgomery, Alabama. I've heard stories about this restaurant from my dozens of cousins. They all had to work in the restaurant as young kids. Since my dad was second youngest, in some way, he was sheltered from many of the hardships that the rest of the family had to face. Immigrating to America was not easy for my dad's family, and it left a profound impression on my dad. After graduating from St. Aquinas in Michigan, he continued to Tulane University to become an immigration lawyer. My mom was born in Hong Kong. My grandma, my papa, had to work day and night as a seamstress to help pay for my mom to go to school. My gong, my grandpa, had already left for the States. He had been working as a butler for General Totten in South Hamilton, Massachusetts. Under General Totten's sponsorship, my gong was able to bring my papa and my mom and my uncle and my aunt to the US. And they immigrated here to Boston. Having already completed most of the American high school curriculum in Hong Kong, my mom was accepted into an accelerated high school program and graduated top of her class as valedictorian. She had a strong work ethic, and her hope was to help others. She decided to continue her education at Boston College, where she graduated from the Connell School of Nursing. I tell you the history of my parents because it is on my parents' shoulders that I stand. It was their generation that experienced the first true assimilation into Western culture. My 3 siblings and I are very lucky. We were raised in a loving home. We were not rich, but we were incredibly blessed. My mom had to work 2 full-time jobs at 2 different hospitals to support us, while my dad, who always put his heart before money, did mostly pro bono work to help immigrant families. We were raised in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I bet you don't think of many Asians when you think of NOLA, but we were lucky that at least there was diversity. When I was in second grade, we moved to San Diego. I felt a little bit more at ease. There were other ABCs, American Born Chinese. There were also other Asians. Many of my friends were Filipino, Vietnamese, white, and mixed. With other Asian communities around, there were more opportunities to see mirrors of myself. My parents did not speak Cantonese to us growing up. My dad later confessed that he did not think it was important. Cantonese was the past, and English was our future. My mom, though, had us go to Chinese school to learn Mandarin. I think this is where my identity crisis may have started. You see, Chinese families sent their Chinese kids who spoke Chinese to Chinese school. The kids there already seemed fluent. I struggled with intonation and traditional character writing. Neither here nor there. I did not feel like I belonged. Because Chinese school was so difficult for me, I pushed it away. I rebelled against my Chinese identity. Not only did it take my Saturdays away, I also felt incompetent. Later on, deciding where I was going to go to college, it was a bit stressful. I had been accepted to several UC schools and was pretty excited. But when I told my dad that I wanted to go to UC Berkeley, he looked at me straight in the face and he said no. I was shocked. And to be honest, pretty upset. UC Berkeley was a great school. But in a heated argument, my dad said to me, "You need to get out there. California is a great place, but there are other places in this country and in this world. You need to meet other people who think differently and speak differently than you do. You will learn from others." It wasn't until many years later that I recognized the wisdom in his words. And so it was settled. I had chosen to go to Boston University. My dad was right. In Boston, people were very different. They were not like the Californians I knew and loved. Coming from a super diverse high school, Boston also felt a little bit less diverse. People also acted differently. There was less hugging for one another. People didn't want to be touched. And people seemed to be moving super quickly. I was overwhelmed. At a school with so many different people from around the country and around the world, I struggled to figure out where I belonged. There was a common stereotype at Boston University about international schools, or international students at my school. If you were an international student, you were seen as wealthy. I was not wealthy. I was there on scholarship, but I looked Chinese, and so students didn't know how to categorize me. I didn't realize it at the time, but I think a big part of me did not want to be associated with the international student stereotype. So I completely ignored my Chinese identity at school. I did not hang out with any Asians. I surrounded myself with Americans. That was my identity at school. At the same time, in my personal life, coming to Boston opened up another door to my identity. I was now closer to my papa, who then lived next to, or right across from the Wang Theater next to Boston's Chinatown. I was now also closer to my uncle, who currently lives in Haverhill, Massachusetts, about 45 minutes away. I would often visit my papa and drop off food and visit for the holidays. My papa did not speak English. She would often say, "OMG, which translates, and I probably said it very incorrectly, but translates to, "I don't know what you're saying." This led me to often calling my uncle or my parents to translate whenever I went to my papa's. But my papa, she did read Chinese characters. So I leaned in. I leaned on my Chinese school education and would often write to her using characters to communicate. My second term of college, something drew me to sign up for Mandarin class again. I was already taking Spanish, but I really wanted to learn Chinese again. Perhaps it was my desire to communicate more with my papa through writing characters, Or perhaps it was this subconscious realization that I wanted to reconnect with my Chinese roots. Maybe the neither nor mentality that I had felt for most of my life could be switched. Maybe I could be both here and there, both Chinese and American. As an adult, I find myself pretty acclimated and assimilated into Western culture. But in the past several years, there's been this strong gravitational pull that has been bringing me back to my roots. Unfortunately, I have lost many loved ones in the past few years, my dad being the hardest loss. But with loss, which can feel like the biggest heartbreak, there is healing. With the passing of my dad and with other family members, the stories started pouring in. It's like a book was reopened. I started to hear more about their past, about their lives, about their accomplishments and their hardships. I found healing through their stories. I felt healing connecting with others. The person I am here today is hugely influenced by my identity as an American-born Chinese. It's influenced by my parents and their stories. I'm here to share my multicultural identity with you all. And in sharing, I hope that I inspire some of you to think about your own identities, to think about your own stories, your parents' stories, and your ancestors' stories. And once you hear about them, I hope that you will share them, because it is on your ancestor stories that we all are here today. And so with that, I leave you with a different introduction. Hello, my name is Melinda Ching, and I am an ABC. I am an American-born Chinese who is both American and Chinese. Thank you for listening to my story.